Greetings, everyone. You have reached the Successful Aging Program, Session 3. I'm Dr. David Donohue, and I'm very pleased to be with you. So this month, we're going to talk about mental health, emotional health, and positive psychology. So you are probably familiar with the 6 pillars of healthy lifestyle and the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, the 6 categories that have so much power in helping us prevent and even reverse chronic diseases. Well, today we're going to focus on stress, strategies to manage stress. So most of us are familiar with this strategy when we have stress, is we want to make that stress or that anxiety, we want to make it go away. We want to achieve a state of calm. But here's another strategy, and that is to, instead of going for calm, let's go for excitement. So the thing about anxiety and excitement is they're very similar. They're very much related in the way that we experience them. We have, in both anxiety and excitement, we have elevated heart rate. We have the release of adrenaline. We have, we can be sweating. We can have thoughts racing. But there's a bit of a difference in that we tend to regard anxiety very negatively and excitement very positively. And with anxiety, we perceive typically a lack of control, whereas with excitement, we feel like we're in control. And so there's actual research precedent here of why we would go for this approach to anxiety, to go for, instead of calming ourselves down, how about go for excitement. So this idea of reframing or reappraising that anxiety, that stress that we're feeling, as instead feeling excitement. So this seminal paper in 2013 called Get Excited, Reappraising Pre-Performance Anxiety as Excitement. And in this study, it was a very simple study. They basically took people who were about to have sort of high pressure performances that they were going to give. In one study group, they looked at people who were going to have to sing in front of their peers. And everybody felt some degree of stress going into this. But then they randomized people to either say 3 words before their performance. They either said, "I am excited," they said those 3 words, or they said, "I am anxious." And those who said, "I am excited," were able to boost their performance over against those who didn't say anything, from about 69% accuracy in their singing to about 80% accuracy in their singing. Whereas people who said the 3 words, "I am anxious," and this is the only difference between the groups, is they just stated these 3 words. Those who said, "I am anxious," had a dramatically lower accuracy of singing, of only about 53%. So this is fascinating that by simply stating words before a performance, you can actually influence how well you're going to perform. The same thing was done in public speaking in the same study, but in this case, they either appraised their condition as "I am calm" or "I am excited." And those who were randomized to say the 3 words, "I am excited," had a better performance in the speech that they had to give. They had to give an impromptu speech, and they were rated by independent blinded raters as delivering a better speech across the board if they had simply stated the words before the speech, "I am excited." So we think that this it really is an indication that we have more power over the feelings that we're feeling than we might think. So this idea of reframing is a powerful technique that can boost our performance and induce more positive emotions. And when we say the words, "I am excited," it apparently, according to this research, can have almost magical performance boosting effects. And when we speak of ourselves as feeling anxious or stressed, we have to be careful because that can actually impair our subsequent performance. So what's going on here inside the brain? Well, there's this thing called your limbic system. It's been described as your primitive or feeling brain. It's your emotional brain, and it's composed of these structures called the thalamus, hypothalamus, amygdala, and hippocampus. And these structures sit deep inside the brain. And what they do is they help us experience things like feelings and emotions, desires and motivations. And it also happens to be where we form memory. So these structures and this limbic system ultimately drive a lot of our behavior. A lot of the decisions that we make, a lot of the behaviors that we take are driven by this very deep structures inside our brain. So your limbic system has been described as like a 2-year-old. It wants things, and those things that it wants are not always in your self-interest. So just like a 2-year-old, sometimes the limbic system can cry loud enough and get its way. So it's been described as a spoiled brat, your limbic system. But make no mistake, the limbic system is vital to your survival and your functioning. And there's actually another term for your limbic system, and it is your self. And if you listen to some of the language we use to describe our own behaviors and our own thoughts and feelings, we use this word self. I'm going to treat myself to a sundae, to a dessert. I'm losing my self-control. Try to compose yourself. This self concept is, when we look at it, usually we're using this term self to describe our limbic system, actually, our experiencing our emotional self. And so this self learns through experience. This self does not learn through lectures like this lecture I'm giving now. It doesn't learn through directives like, hey, self, stop feeling this way and start feeling a different way. Yourself learns from experiences. So the problem is yourself wants to maximize hedonistic pleasure rather than your well-being. So it's your mothering part of your brain, your parenting part of your brain that probably wants your well-being, but your hedonistic limbic system wants pleasure. So it's through this constant pursuit of hedonistic pleasure that yourself can lead you to mental health and physical health problems. But the mental problems that can arise include things like anxiety, depression, chronic pain, craving, addictions, and substance abuse. And also the physical problems like chronic diseases, because when you look at the many chronic diseases that we suffer from, most of these are diseases of Western civilization, and we owe them in part to the fact that we have certain degree of addictions or a desire to feed that hedonistic pleasure centers and eat those French fries and that burger and that slice of pizza because it's going to give me pleasure right now, and I'm your limbic system, and that's what I want. So the question before us is, how can we steer that self of ours toward greater emotional and physical well-being so that it's not so focused on things that are going to bring hedonistic pleasure but less well-being? And so I think step one in this journey is to cast away our harmful addictions. So if you look at addictions as these gremlins that live in your brain, they can steer us toward behaviors that are not good for our well-being. We all have some degree of addictions, some people more than others. So addictions live in this same limbic system, and it's particularly the mesolimbic pathway within the limbic system, and with the neurotransmitter dopamine involved in the motivations that drive our addictive behaviors. Addictive behaviors, it's the same brain structures, it's the same chemistry going on inside your brain. So whether you are enjoying a double cheeseburger or enjoying alcohol with friends or doom scrolling on your smartphone or getting excited about the chase scene in a movie or snorting a line of cocaine or getting addicted to achievement at work or getting it on hot and heavy with that lusty ladybug, it's all the same brain structures driving our behaviors. Again, impacting the limbic system. So these addictions that we have are hard to cast off. You can't talk your limbic system out of its addictions. So you have to sort of experience your way out of it. And one way to do that is to get curious. When we get curious, we are able to look at our addictions with the sober eye of the investigative part of your brain. And one strategy is to use radical honesty, to really be honest with yourself. In part, this radical honesty can help you identify, what addictions do I have? So the idea of radical honesty is, I'm not going to tell a single fib. I'm going to go into this total honesty mode, and I'm going to be totally transparent and honest about what I'm feeling. So I'm being honest with myself, but I'm also being honest with other people. And this forces you to stay in your thinking and rational brain, your parenting brain, your executive functioning, and it allows you to take honest stock of which habits, addictions are doing you harm. And these habits and addictions that you've built up over the years can be anything from the tendency to want to snack on certain foods, or the foods you've told yourself that are going to be healthy enough for you to eat for the rest of your life, or maybe it's a little bit more addictive behaviors like seeking out coffee in the morning, or it can be more harmful addictive behaviors like smoking or other kinds of drugs. So the next step in casting these away and through curiosity is to, after you've taken stock and you've identified what are the addictive behaviors, try to abstain for 30 days. This is a powerful way to go through the experience of not having the addiction. This can sound harder than it might actually be. But when you do abstain, you're going to feel cravings. And so the strategy there is to get curious about those cravings, to just kind of observe them. And sometimes you'll give into them and sometimes you won't. But you don't get judgmental. You just identify, well, what's going on here? Isn't that interesting? I noticed I had that craving and it did pass. It only took 5 minutes to pass. And why did that craving happen? And so when you get curious about your cravings, it gives you much more agency over taking control of them. I'm going to shift gears and talk about a more positive psychology strategy to well-being. So this fine book by Dr. Darren Morton, PhD, from Australia, called Live More Happy. He has done a lot of research looking into this field of positive psychology. He's also created a program called the Lift Project, which is very similar in its content. And that's a 10-week group program that is designed to walk you through a number of different behaviors and approaches to sort of guiding that limbic system of yours toward behaviors that are going to produce more well-being. So in particular, here's some of the main lessons of the Lift Project and from his book, Live More Happy. Number one is that your limbo is listening. We're going to go into some of these in more detail. Number two is motion creates emotion. So moving our bodies can help improve our mood. Blue and green should often be seen. It's helpful to get outside and see the colors blue and green and be in nature. Together feels better. Stresses the importance of being together with other people in a social setting, especially caring relationships with people. Mood follows our food, talks about the particular foods that are powerful for fostering positive emotions. Rest to feel our best talks about the importance of sleep. And Giving is Living talks about the importance of volunteerism. So each of these experiences, each of these lessons has an associated experience, because again, it's that limbic system experiencing through either our senses of touch and sight and smell and our other senses, or it can even be through some of our other fundamental functions like love and connection. So this is basically the languages that our limbic system speaks. And this is how we can sort of hijack it or steer it in a more productive environment and direction. So lesson one is your limbo is listening. That is to say, yourself is listening. And so when we saw that study that said simply stating the words, I am excited, can boost our later performance, that's what we're talking about. Your limbo is literally listening in to what verbiage is being said, even if that verbiage is coming from you, and it's picking up information from what it's hearing. And oftentimes it's what it hears that helps it lock in better than if you think it. If you think to yourself, I'm excited, I'm not stressed, then that's not going to work as well as if it's said out loud. Sometimes you can write it down as another way of speaking to your limbic system. Positive self-talk in general is a powerful way of engaging your limbic system in a positive way. So this 5-to-1 positivity ratio is what we're going for. Trying to have 5 positive emotions for every 1 negative emotion. And by the way, this 5-to-1 positivity ratio is also a powerful technique for fostering stronger relationships at work and at home with others. So it works with ourselves, it works with others, but trying to say 5 positive things for every 1 negative thing, at least. By the way, there's also research showing that when we smile, it can impact our well-being. So again, among the things that your limbic system is listening into is the experience of, am I smiling? If I'm smiling, there must be a reason for me to feel good. This is an interesting study done looking at baseball card photos, and they actually can tell you a bit of what's going on in the person's life, because if you look at this person who didn't really smile, this person who's slightly smiling, and this person who has a full-on facial smile with wrinkled eyes and baring their teeth, we can measure an impact in life expectancy. And people who had no smile at all in baseball card photos lived an average of 72.9 years, whereas people who had a full smile lived an average of 7 years longer. The so-called Duchenne smile, that's that full smile. So lesson 1, your limbo is experiencing. So our limbic system receives information more from having experiences rather than through commands from our thinking brain. And those experiences come from our 5 senses plus proprioception, which is the 6th sense, that is, where are my limbs in space, and also from behaviors like social interaction. Lesson 2 is an important one. It's motion creates emotion, and something we already know, that exercise and movement have such a powerful impact on our positive psychology. So movement also speaks to the limbic system. And among the many mood enhancing benefits we have that get released when we have exercise, one is endorphins, those positive feeling chemicals in our brain. Another is myokines, which are hormones that our muscles produce that actually have positive impact on cognition. We improve the blood flow, and we improve our vascular health, which improves perfusion of the important centers of the brain, and it can improve mood. And we improve insulin resistance, we improve inflammation. All these things reduce our tendency to feel depressed and down. So which forms of physical activity are most beneficial for mental health? Well, this meta-analysis looked at that question, and they basically found that if we want to reduce depressive feelings, that strength training probably has the biggest effect at a 64% rate of benefit. And if we want to reduce anxiety, the greatest effect was found with stretching, yoga, and other mind-body activities. So it was interesting that the benefits tended to wear off over time, and they were significantly less effective at 24 weeks than they were at 12 weeks. We can interpret this in different ways. One way is to say that once the routine becomes really routine and you're habitualized to it, you're going to get less benefits. So that's an argument that we should probably keep things fresh. And that could come in the form of more challenges in your aerobic workouts, or progression in your strengthening workouts, or more stretching or other new routines in your mindfulness workouts. So another area of where your limbo is listening or experiencing is in your posture. It turns out that the posture that we are showing the world is also talking to our own limbic system and telling our limbic system what mood we should strike. So creating more confidence in positive and in positive and negative self-assessments is one of the things that we experience when we switch our posture to more upright. And they actually did research on this where they had people force them into a more stooped posture versus more upright posture. And when people took that more upright posture, they also had better performance in a job interview. They had easier time thinking of empowering positive traits about themselves. And it even increased measurable levels of testosterone and decreased levels of cortisol. So these are, we think, all positive changes that are happening that are empowering the person to perform better. So how can we boost posture? This is somewhat speculative, but one way is strengthen the muscles whose job it is to hold you in that upright, erect posture. And so Supermans can be an important one. When we do muscles training, we tend to neglect the muscles in the backside of our body. So Supermans are where you hold this position for a good long count and then relax and hold this position and relax, and you're working these back of your body muscles. Other exercises like the lat pulls or this sort of reverse crunches, these back flexion exercises where she bends forward and then she pulls her body up. These are all strengthening your back muscles and your neck muscles. Here was another research where they had people randomized to either taking these power postures or more negative postures before an interview, and then they measured performance in the interview. And people who were randomized to sit for 2 minutes or stand for 2 minutes in one of these power postures, as pictured in the top row, performed significantly better in the later job interview than those who sat in these more negative postures in the bottom row. Do you find yourself ever sitting in these negative postures? If so, consider giving yourself these 2-minute postural snacks of standing in a power posture like this woman with her hands on her hips, or standing with this woman with her hands on the table but looking upward. So lesson 3 is blue and green should often be seen. And this basically points to the idea that nature is really important for our limbic system. If we can get outside in nature and surround ourselves with the sights and sounds and smells of nature, we can boost our mood and our positive emotion. And there's many ways this has been measured. For example, hospitalized patients with a view of a natural scene out their hospital window required less pain medicines and got discharged quicker. Another study shows that every 1% increase in green space within 3 kilometers of your home is associated with a 4% lower risk of anxiety and mood disorders. There's this concept called nature deficit disorder that's been proposed as a contributor to the mental health problems of many people. Not all, but many people might be suffering from nature deficit disorder. And another thing along these lines is the idea of light therapy. This has been known for years and years that light therapy can be a powerful tool for people who are experiencing seasonal affective disorder, getting the blues during the winter months. So there's these tools that are quite inexpensive on Amazon, for example, that whose job is to shine the light right at you. As I sit here and speak to you in January of 2024, I have one of them shining at me at this very moment. But getting yourself about 2,500 to 10,000 lux for about 30 minutes a day can be uplifting. It can also help you orient your circadian clock. So we recommend using this light in the morning time for those who are groggy in the morning, have trouble getting going, and who might have trouble falling asleep at night. And we recommend using light therapy in the evening time when you start getting the yawns, when you start getting sleepy, for anyone who's waking up too early, who has low energy in the evening. So believe it or not, it might be the opposite of what we've read about for what's ideal sleep hygiene. We're supposed to start dimming the lights. Not if you're someone who has early morning awakening insomnia. Think about using that evening light therapy to brighten your evening and get your circadian clock better oriented with your actual 24-hour clock. So if you've not tried light therapy to improve your mood and sleep, you might want to try it. It really can be powerful and it's very affordable. So finally, we're going to focus on mood follows food. So there was this famous SMILES trial done not too long ago in New Zealand, in which they randomized people who had depression to either get 12 weeks of social support. This is the control group, who were basically taught how to connect with other people and engage in productive, fun activities, or they were put into a nutrition counseling regime that consisted of 7 hours of nutrition counseling over the course of the 12 weeks. And what did they find? They found that after 12 weeks, 32% of those who had the dietary counseling had resolved their depression, whereas only 8% of the control. So the nutrition and dietetic counseling could be regarded as 4 times as effective as sort of the standard approach to depression, which is, again, the social support counseling that people typically receive when they have depression. So simply training people to eat more plant-based foods was much more effective than the standard of care for counseling for depression. So the SMILES trial had a powerful effect on what we know about the importance of nutrition for mood. But there's been other studies, and what a consistent finding is that when we have about 8 or 9 or more servings of fruit and vegetables a day, we see a boost in mood. We see a boost in optimism, happiness, life satisfaction, even a sense of well-being when people are eating more fruits and vegetables. And people say, well, wait a minute, maybe this is reverse causation. Maybe it's happier people eat more fruits and vegetables. So that this group looked at the timing of when they ate the fruits and vegetables and when they felt happier. And what they found is that eating more fruits and vegetables on one day was predictive of your mood the next day, but not vice versa. So we think that the mood follows the food. And in particular, positive mood follows the consumption of fruits and vegetables. And the magic number seems to be about 8 servings a day. Typically, a serving of fruit and vegetables is about a cup. 1 cup of fruits and vegetables tends to be 1 serving. Exceptions would be berries, and typically it's half that amount, about half a cup is a serving. So food strategies that might boost your mood. There is research to suggest that all these strategies can be mood boosting. So there is evidence that avoiding animal products alone can boost your mood. Why would that be? Because for one thing, you're eating less of this pro-inflammatory fatty acid called arachidonic acid, which also has a cognitive depressive effect. We're eating less saturated fat, which is pro-inflammatory, and we're eating less endotoxins and other chemicals. And then when we avoid processed and sugary foods, we can similarly reduce inflammation. When we avoid fish, we can reduce mercury, which can contribute to depression. As we've seen, when we eat 8 or more servings of fruit and vegetables, we can have a strong impact. And how would that be? Well, because we know that depression, by some definitions, is a disease of inflammation of the brain. So when we eat more fruits and vegetables, we're reducing inflammation. We're also boosting flavonoids, which are antioxidants, and we are boosting dietary fiber, which boosts our short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which is also antioxidants and seems to have an antidepressive effect. These foods in particular have been found in research to be mood uplifting. So cloves, oregano, cinnamon, nutmeg, turmeric. So those spices, followed by apples, berries, grapes, onions, and green tea. By the way, green tea comes up on a lot of lists for its positive health benefits. A lot of these have been found to actually be MAO inhibitors, so that they behave chemically like a class of antidepressant medications. So your assignment with all this information is, let's adopt some of these behaviors that could be mood boosting for you. So I would encourage you to try to adopt a mood enhancing diet for a month, in which we are trying to hit that magic number of 8 or more servings of fruit and vegetables a day. A great way to do it is good old Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen app, which is free and stresses every single one of these classes of healthy foods. And then also emphasize those foods that have been found in research to be clearly antidepressant. So that includes the cloves, oregano, cinnamon, nutmeg, and turmeric. So maybe get yourself some pumpkin pie spice and add it to your oatmeal, and sneak some turmeric into your smoothie or your morning green tea. Having the apples, berries, and grapes. Having onions, and of course, green tea or decaf green tea. And assignment number 2, I would say, is try at least one other modality that could boost your mood. So think about trying to address your addictions. Think about addressing your positivity ratio. I'm beating myself up too much, and I want to really try to boost my positivity ratio, and say 5 positive things for every 1 negative thing. I want to get exercising. I know I should exercise, and by golly, I'm motivated to do it, because I'm hearing the message that it really can be uplifting for my depression or anxiety. Schedule that exercise to make sure that it's going to happen. Try to attain that upright posture. Try that 2-minute power posing. Strengthen the muscles that are going to support that upright posture, like doing the Superman exercises. When we hike, walk, or ruck outdoors, it's a win-win-win, because we're getting outdoors, we're getting walking, we're getting pedometer steps, and we are boosting our mood. And then think about the light therapy. It's so easy to try. Just figure out what's the right time of day to do it. So there's your assignment. I wish you every success going forward. Thank you for your attention. Best of luck.